Testing.
Testing.
One,
Testing.
2.
1, 2. Now, we are now testing this out for proper modulation.
Proper modulation.
As you will know, when you record, the proper modulation that is required
As you know,
is for the
a
electric
green
which is
eye.
a green type
Green.
of
It's an
tube.
electronic eye at the
Open
end of a
and close.
green tube.
Green tube. Everyone's like, what the fuck are they talking about? Something from Howard Stern show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Bill. Here as always with Scott. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Not in the studio. A whole new setup this week.
Whole new setup, and I actually think we have it worked out. All the mics should sound good. Our new setup, our new set. I don't know. What is this? It's my basement.
It's the dungeon.
Ooh.
This is where things happen. Bad things happen.
You thought that was a swing for kids. Nope.
I never thought that was a swing for kids.
You knew better. So I was thinking before we kick off, we got a ton of stories to talk about today. We're really going to spend a little bit more time on one of the stories. It's about the Nickelodeon scandals and everything going on with Dan Snyder
Yeah.
from the 90s. It's so much more than I thought just from that show that we talked about. What's it called? Alone in the Dark? No, that's a Uwe Boll movie.
Quiet on the set.
Quiet on the set, yeah.
So this was something you went down a deep rabbit hole on.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is that show that everybody watched, the one where Drake Bell came out
Yeah.
and said that, he was abused.
Yeah.
They just scratched the surface. YouTube has done such a better job uncovering all that stuff.
Now let me ask you this. The things on YouTube, are they coming out because of the Quiet on the Set 2-part documentary? Or were they always there and just nobody was looking for it?
It's the latter. So there's been
Okay.
plenty of people talking about this on YouTube, and somehow after the Weinstein thing, he being Snyder,
Yeah.
got very nervous, started deleting things off the internet, all kinds of things. But then he ended up going on that show, Alone in the Dark by Uwe Boll,
Oh, okay.
and he, whatever, there was Quiet on the Set.
Quiet on the Set.
And Dan Snyder went on there, and he just kind of made it all sound like we're all crazy for thinking what we saw was real.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so good. That guy's such a scumbag. Just some kind of narcissistic personality disorder that he can look at a camera and just lie so easily. We'll talk all about
Okay.
this. Well, if you're listening now and you have no idea what we're talking about, I'll clear it up. It's filthy stuff.
I'm sure.
I was also thinking a little bit about the our name, Too Much CGI.
He said it. He said it.
So when I came up with the idea of that name, it was like the old guy that says, "Hey, teenagers, get off my lawn."
Get off my lawn.
It was supposed to be a joke of like, we're old heads who still love this fucking retro pop culture stuff, and we're shaking our fingers at Too Much CGI. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do shit on a lot of things that are contemporary callbacks to classic things that we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
But we never intended to talk about computer-generated imagery or actual CGI.
No.
That was never part of the plan.
No, and when I thought of the name, I was like, this is a great name. Podcasts always have those quirky kinds of names. I'm afraid too many people think we're just about CGI. I can't tell you how many people go, oh, that sounds like an interesting show. Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about CGI. I'm like, okay, you're taking it too literally.
Yeah, because I don't either. I know what I like, and I know when there's too much of it, and I know we bitch about that a lot, and I stand by that. But if that's sending out the wrong message, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so we've been talking about a new name.
Yeah,
Still
still working.
Yep. Still, what's the word I'm looking for? Ideationing?
We're
Ideationing.
spitballing,
Spitballing.
workshopping some stuff.
See, I'm going for the big word. You're just like spitball. Spitball. Why are you working so hard, Bill? But we do like what we did the last couple episodes. Everybody's been telling me, they're like, oh, that's really cool. We're getting a lot more new stuff from you as you go through and read more news items. So we're amping up the news items a little bit more. We still have central focus, and we still have fuck-upperies and mailbag and a lot of that stuff. So the show's not changing that much.
No, and if we come up with a main topic, we'll still certainly do a main topic. But honest to God, this is something we do in our spare time. We're coming up on 100 episodes here in the next couple of weeks, and it's not always a main topic to be had, or at least one we can feel passionately enough about to spend an hour talking about it, So we'll still have those once and again, and I still really do enjoy putting those pieces together. But for now, I mean, we'll expand the news.
We'll expand the news. And by doing that, we'll just make shit up. We'll just filibuster and expand the news, which seems to be what the internet does.
And we will really be keeping to that initial spirit of too much CGI, where we're just going to be two old guys telling you what we don't like about what we're seeing in the news right now.
Right. Just two critical old bastards.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good,
It
though.
could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
Well, before we kick off to the different topics or news stories, we don't have any mail that came in, but you said we have a fuck-uppery?
Yeah. You were talking about the voice cast of an upcoming movie. Transformers, I think.
All right. Yeah, the Transformers 1.
Transformers 1. Very star-studded voice actor cast. And you said one of them is Jennifer... What was it?
Lopez.
No, not Jennifer Lopez. You said she was a comedian.
Yeah, it was Coolidge.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
You said, oh, I know who she is. She's a comedian. Yeah, like, you ask 10 people, I don't think any of them are going to identify her as a comedian. I mean, she's Stifler's mom.
You know, you're right. She's not a comedian. She's a comedic actor. Every once in a while, I'll hear somebody call somebody a comedian when they're just comedic actors.
Yeah.
So I think I did that.
Okay, I can see comedic actor. I get that.
I like her. She's funny as Stifler's mom.
But I'll tell you, none of these women even compare to
Stifler's mom.
Stifler's mom is a goddess.
Yeah, I wish she wasn't. I like her when there's not as much of her. Like, she was great in Legally Blonde, where she was like trying to pick up the FedEx guy. She was great as Stifler's mom because she only just popped by once and again. Now she's doing all these fucking American Express or these credit card commercials. Like, the more of her I see, the less of her I need.
I like that. I love her. She's great as long as I don't have to see her. I didn't even know she was doing commercials. You could have told me she quit Hollywood. I would have been like, oh, okay. That's how out of touch I am with regular TV.
Well, you know, she always plays the same character. And it's always like this aloof woman who's like, oh, wow. Like, oh, my God. Like, that's like her character. That's like what she plays in almost everything. Except for Stifler's mom. I guess Stifler's mom, she was more of a cougar type.
Right.
But she plays basically the same character she played in Legally Blonde in all these commercials. And like, she's on the phone with like customer support for whatever credit card it is. And I apologize, I don't recall the credit card. And she's like, wow, you AI computer voices are getting more and more realistic every day. And she's like, oh no, ma'am. Like, here at Capital One, I don't think it's Capital One. They have Jennifer Gardner. But here at the credit card company, you can call us 24 hours a day. You'll always talk to a live human. And she was like, oh yeah? Well, like, prove it. And they were like, well, are you a human? And she was like, oh my God, like, how would I prove that? Like, it was just like her playing her typical ditzy character self. And it's just like, this is good in movies. I don't need this on commercials.
Isn't that a South Park episode? When Cartman put on a VR headset and put Butters in the VR and told Butters he was in a different world, and Butters is now in the real world running around thinking he's in a VR world.
That was, yeah.
Ah, God damn it!
Speaking of voices in Transformers 1, the trailer came out. Did you see it?
I did.
What'd you think?
Yeah, I still don't care much more than what I did.
Yeah.
So Transformers 1, this is where it's Optimus Prime before he's Optimus Prime and Megatron before he's Megatron. They were friends.
Yeah.
And then Optimus Prime gets destroyed. And then another robot that's being voiced by Lawrence Fishburne rebuilds. I forget what their original names were, but rebuilds this one. Then he becomes Optimus Prime after the rebuild.
Really?
I also saw that Keegan-Michael Key is playing the robot that becomes Bumblebee.
All right. Yeah, because they're calling him Orion Pax. And I'm like,
Orion Pax was the character. That's Optimus Prime before he becomes Optimus Prime.
well, I saw it. The first thing I thought was, wow, Hollywood said Spider-Verse worked great. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reboot worked great. What did they do? Well, they were a little bit edgier. The animation was pretty good. We should do some of that. What franchises do we have? We have Transformers. So it just looks like they're doing more of that. I didn't like it. I don't even know if I want to see it.
What do you think of Chris Hemsworth doing the voice of Optimus?
I don't even think I know it was him.
Yeah. Well, he said he's kind of making a point of not doing a Chris Pratt, where everything Chris Pratt voices is just Chris Pratt's voice. He intentionally didn't want to use his talking voice to be Orion Pax, a.k.a. Optimus Prime.
He didn't even try to. I would have been like,
Roll
Autobots,
out.
roll out.
There you go.
Autobots. And that guy gets like real deep. He sticks his chin into his neck. Autobots. This is Optimus Prime. It's funny when you go watching those old cartoons and all of a sudden, like, the narrator of Kung Fu, what was that? Kung Fu? What was that?
Kung Fu Panda?
No, I was trying to reach for, there's a dog who did Kung Fu, remember? Hong Kong Phooey.
Hong Kong Phooey.
Like, all of a sudden, you're watching Hong Kong Phooey and you hear, Hong Kong Phooey, in the voice of, like, Peter Cullen, is now in trouble. It's
yeah,
like,
I was going to say, it was funny seeing or hearing him other places, and it's like, the hell?
Yeah, yeah. And I remember a lot of Transformers and, like, Spider, a lot of the, yeah, it was all the action stuff. Like, there was always, Fred from Scooby-Doo was always in one of those shows. Like, he's Fred. He's also Duke from G.I. Joe. He's also, yeah, it's always
Yeah.
the same guys.
Yeah. I know especially true for like a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, like Scooby-Doo. Then they'd show up on like Hong Kong Phooey was, and then next thing you know, he's on fucking Flintstones. Like, I know there were different time spans, but along the same lines.
I don't know how Hong Kong Phooey popped into my head. That might have been something I would have totally forgotten for the rest of my life if it didn't just come back.
That was a show that came on rarely. But I remember every time it did, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I can't wait to watch this. But it's not like one I always watched.
Do you remember Foofer? Here comes help. Here comes action. Here comes Foofer.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know what you just sang, but I can't picture it.
It was one of the USA cartoons.
Yeah.
They were like the low rent cartoons. Like if you watched USA cartoons like Shirt Tails and Foofer, like you weren't the cool kid. You weren't watching the cool shit.
Yeah. Damn, that song really sticks out to me.
Well, what do you say we start talking about our topic?
All right.
All right. So what I'm going to try to do is bring everybody up to speed to what's going on here. There is a huge scandal happening right now. It's a Hollywood scandal. Everybody's talking about it. At the same time, there's another incredible scandal, the P. Diddy scandal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk about that next time because that one's opening up in a crazy way. The reason I thought of Jennifer Lopez for that gag before is like they're saying that she brought the gun in that helped, the one guy get shot. Like she's even part of this. Everybody's starting to look really shitty around his camp and especially him.
Yeah.
What's the guy? Weinberg. Not Weinberg. Max Weinberg. Didn't Max Weinberg, isn't he the guy that Me Too'd everybody? Not Max Weinberg.
Max Weinberg was a drummer for the E Street Band. What are you talking about?
I'm blanking on the guy's name. Weinstein. Yeah.
Harvey. Oh, my.
I just indicted Max Weinberg.
He's like a pretty low-key guy from Jersey playing drums.
Oh, you didn't hear?
I thought you were going someplace with this.
Yeah, well, he was running around forever calling himself Chester the Molester. We're only now finding out.
Oh, shit.
All
I'll
right.
tell you what, though, with the amount of stuff that's coming out, I wouldn't be surprised.
I know. It's crazy. It's
Not about Max Weinberg, but there's a lot of crazy shit coming out right now.
Yeah. Well, all right. The backstory of this whole thing is in the 90s, Nickelodeon, I didn't watch it. My kid wasn't even of the age to watch it then, but there's shows like All That, Good Burger, it was all kid shows.
And these were shows that came about after I was too old for Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up with Nickelodeon. It was like, you can't do that on television and Double Dare and shit like that. But they had a show called like Roundhouse, which was like a Friday night, like a late night, almost like a sketch comedy thing. I started watching that. But even at that point, I was starting to get the fuck out of Nickelodeon. But yeah, then Good Burger came in. It was basically the Keenan and Kel era.
Yeah. Right. So at that point, before all of that started to click for Nickelodeon, they were like last in the market. Nobody was watching Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, this guy, Dan Snyder, shows up. Who's Dan Snyder? Well, he's been in movies. He's been in TV shows.
He's the head of the class.
He was in Head of the Class. He was the big guy. He was in Better Off Dead. He played the big guy who was the neighbor's son. Yep, who was trying to date the French exchange student.
Yep.
So, he's kicking around in Hollywood, and at some point, he meets somebody who says, hey, why don't you come develop some stuff over at Nickelodeon? So he goes over and he's like, well, let's make this. I don't know all the shows that keep them in order, but, Zoe 101 or iCarly or Victorious or some of the names I remember seeing. And there's people like Ariana Grande. There's people like.
I was going to say, a lot of big stars came out of the shows you're naming, I know. Not that I watched them, but Ariana Grande, I mean, she's a huge recording artist. And remember we talked about Amanda Bynes being in there. She was big for a hot minute.
She was huge.
Yeah, and then shit went off the rails there. But Hilary Duff was one, too.
She was Disney.
Oh, you're right. Okay. I take it back.
Yeah, I can't be wrong on any of this. I'm the hugest fan of all these kids. No, I'm not kidding. I don't know how I do that. I said it so matter of fact.
She's Disney, you son of a bitch. How dare you? You come into my house, you get your goddamn kid shows right.
The truth is actually when this guy left, he was kicking around Hollywood to join Nickelodeon. Do you remember Head of the Class? Do you remember there was another guy who was kind of the punk? He had long hair.
He had a leather jacket. Of course he did.
Of course. It was scary because he wore a leather jacket.
That's right.
But he had a weird looking face. He wasn't scary, but he was supposed to be the tough guy.
Yeah.
He's actually Dan Snyder's partner in all this. So they had gotten together and said, why don't we become a production team and work on this Nickelodeon stuff? So just a little, when you're looking at me like, what do you mean?
No. I'm picking up what you're saying. Who'd have thought the Head of the Class had such horrible ramifications 10, 20 years down the line?
Well, I could say that guy seems to drop out of the picture. So
okay. So he's not defendant number 2.
No, he got everything kind of started, but Dan Snyder ended up just taking over. So Dan Snyder's got all these hit shows, and all the kids are coming and filming. And in Florida, where this was being done, there's laws that parents need to be on the set.
Remember they had the Nickelodeon Hotel, Nickelodeon Studios at Universal Studios Florida?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay. It was part of the theme park.
Okay. Remember how Nickelodeon for a while had like a footprint, a bare toes footprint?
Yeah.
You saw that everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I remember now there was a hotel that had a footprint. Keep all this in mind.
I thought you were going to tell me Dan Snyder had a foot fetish, and that's why they used that.
You're going to love where we're going.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right. So the parents, based on Florida law, had to be present because they were minors, because the kids were minors. So the first thing that started to happen, that rule got relaxed. A lot of parents were like, you know what? Dan's a good guy. He's looking out for my kids. Everybody who's involved with all of these shows are looking out for my kids. So some of the parents stepped away.
So do you think it was relaxed by the state or relaxed by the parents themselves?
I think it was relaxed by the parents themselves.
Okay, so there were still laws on the books, but whether they were enforced or not was another story.
Yeah, the parents may not have even known. They
Gotcha.
might have been like, everything's going fine. I'll let my kid hang out here for 8 hours. I'll go to work.
Right.
Now, there were other parents that were like, no, I'm not leaving my kid, and they started to see stuff. They're like, why are you putting my daughter in a milk bath? Why are you making my daughter squirt gel all over her face like it's a porno? This is the stuff that was happening. So some of the parents were like, no. And what would happen if that happened is the parents and the kid would eventually get kicked out. So they were able to create a environment where most of the kids that, were still there by the end had parents that weren't paying that much attention.
So helicopter parents were an instant pink slip where...
Yeah.
All right.
You got it. So there's a couple kids that talk about on the Quiet on the Set show, and even some of the other stuff I watch on YouTube that are like, yeah, I didn't last very long because they didn't like my mom because she was trying to be a mom.
Yeah.
So there's the first sign of grooming, right? Get the authority figures out of the way. The next thing they started to do on this show is all of the stuff was written by Dan and, the writing team. It was all pretty perverted when you look at it now, right? The foot fetish thing, the foot that we were talking about, there were tons of gags about feet, putting feet in your mouth. People were trying to put other people's feet in their mouth. Adults were talking about, oh, look how soft this girl's feet are. There's a lot of stuff that when you look at it now, you go, ugh, whoa, that's creepy. We can't do that now. But what Dan Snyder said on that show was, listen, I understand. This came out in the 90s, and all of the jokes that we wrote were kids' jokes. Sure, you're putting pornographic connotations to them now, but back then, they were jokes just to make the kids laugh. The documentary tried to show this. Look at these scenes. Look at this scene from the show where Ariana Grande was basically, it looked like a porno scene. If you kind of tilted your head to the side and squinted a little, you'd be like, what am I looking at here? So Dan Snyder's like, it's just kid stuff. Well, I've been watching a lot more of the YouTube stuff that this show, Quiet on the Set, did not cover. These other shows are cracking it way open how much of the show was actually pornographic.
So you think Dan Snyder had the narrative of this documentary? Like, he tried to okay it away, and it sounds as though the documentary makers kind of allowed that to happen, but the YouTube videos are not.
So the documentary makers are getting in trouble now. Here, I'm going to read you the story
Okay.
that I actually printed out here, and then I'll continue telling you the rest of the details. So the show came out on the channel called ID. Do you know that channel?
ID, yeah. Yeah, I remember it more from when I still had cable.
I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Investigation, what is it? Investigation Discovery, it's
I
called.
feel like it's one of yeah. I feel like it's one of those channels that used to be like Court TV, and then it was something like G4, and now it's like, we're gonna be ID now because why not?
Because why not? So Quiet on the Set survivors say they wouldn't have agreed to the docuseries if they knew it was for the ID network. Doesn't that sound weird already? Like, wait a minute.
You'd be okay with it if it was a different network, but not ID?
Yeah. So former child actors Raquel Lee Ballou and Alexa Nicholas, who participated in the docuseries Quiet on the Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, claimed they did not know the project was being made for Investigation Discovery until close to airtime. They say they would not have agreed to do the interviews if they had known ID was involved, as they feel their stories deserved a more serious and more credible platform. Dude, I watched this on Cinemax, or Max.
Max, yeah.
So,
Oh, you know what? Investigation Discovery, it's an offshoot of the Discovery Channel. That's how I know it.
all right.
Yeah.
And that's part of Warner, and
It's part of Max.
who owns HBO? That's Warner.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ballou, what is his name? Bolleau, Ballou. And Nicholas, I don't know how to say any names. I've realized doing this show that I'm the worst at pronouncing names, and I've never known that about myself. Anyway, these two allege that the creators, Emma Schwartz and Mary Robertson, made the true crime expose under false pretenses and kept them in the dark about key details like ID's involvement through a strategic siloing process. They believe this manufactured consent prevented them from fully understanding the scope of the project and properly preparing for its massive impact after it became the most watched title ever on Max. The women feel that sensationalism was revved up because of ID's involvement and that the series would have been curated differently and more impactful on another network. They are upset about the deception, believing the creators wanted to hide information to avoid treating them better. Nicholas says Quiet on the Set presented the creators' version of her experience, not mine. All right, so now they're not happy about the show because it wasn't real enough.
So they wouldn't have more of a Vice type documentary experience?
I think they just wanted more to come out.
Okay.
But it seems a little weird to me to be like, we're not happy. It was on this channel. You should be happy it came out.
The story's out.
Right. It was buried on the deepest pages of YouTube. At least it came out.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very bizarre. You didn't make us big stars again because you only put us on ID. You should have put us on a bigger network.
Oh, you think that's their complaint?
I can't not think there's something like that. Like most of these kids dropped out after Nickelodeon ended.
Well,
so a lot of them are getting attention again.
There's probably trauma response. They don't want to go back to acting.
Yeah. Well, now a lot of them are on YouTube. They're on this show, but they're doing a better job on YouTube. And they're talking flat out. They're like, oh, yeah, this happened, that happened. I don't want to say too much because, we'll get in trouble for the YouTube video. We'll probably get nailed when we start mentioning all the words that I wish we could say, which is what, they used on the show. But yeah, these actors, the kids are coming out saying incredibly dark shit that this show didn't even cover. So YouTube is doing a way better job of covering this stuff than this TV show. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like these little vigilante reporters who are going out and putting pieces together. Remember I talked about that guy, Deluxe?
Yeah.
How he goes and looks at blind items and puts pieces together. Evidently, there's tons of YouTubers doing that.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the shit that they're unpacking is just, how did this happen? There were 4 pedophiles working at Nickelodeon. One of them got fired, only served, I think they said 9 months.
So convicted pedophile.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the one who molested Drake Bell, he basically got a slap on the wrist. He was only in jail for a couple months, and then he went to work at Disney.
Fuckers.
How the hell did he get hired again?
That's a good question, man.
So these pedophiles were targeting Nickelodeon. And then inside is this Dan Snyder, who's so bad to the girls. he's got the girls either terrified because he runs around as a tyrant,
Mm-hmm.
or he's got them freaked out because he's a pervert and he makes perverted jokes. And some of these things he even films as side content. So some of that has made it out, whether it got leaked out or maybe it was a little segment here and there on one of the shows, and
Mm-hmm.
he thought it was so funny to put it on. But now it looks really bad. And there is one video that I cannot get this out of my head where he walks up to Ariana Grande and somebody else who I didn't know, and the look of fear on their face, like, oh my God, what am I going to have to do now? Like, you got the camera on me. They're terrified. That was not joy.
Yeah.
So just hearing the stories of the kids who were like, yeah, this was the worst experience of my life. I was like, I guess we're all supposed to be molested. I guess we're all supposed to be treated like this. Like, they're hanging around with all of these groomers that the
Wow.
kids eventually started to think, well, I guess this is how you succeed in Hollywood. You put up with this shit.
Wow.
And the craziest thing is him going, oh, none of that's true. None of that's true. And it's like, it's all over the goddamn TV, dude.
Yeah, it sounds like his claim is everything was just taken out of context.
Yeah.
If you look at it now with this lens, of course it's going to look that way, but it sounds like there's no other way to look at it.
Right. There's a scene where I saw this on the YouTube show. They walk by a door, and the door, instead of just being like D8, like apartment D8, it's D = 8. If you think about what that looks like,
Oh, it's like yeah. Okay.
remember Adam Sandler?
Cock and balls.
Or even better, beef and Franks. Or, what is that? Franks and beans.
Frank and beans.
So you can't tell me that all of this wasn't sexual innuendo. Come on. You can't
Yeah.
fool us anymore, Dan. And he went on and defended himself, said, no, you guys are looking for something that's not there. No, Dan, you were trying to be edgy. You're a pervert. You were trying to write content that was not meant for these kids. You had, in some of these scenes, you had 18, 19-year-old boys kissing 14-year-old girls.
Oh.
And
yeah.
then after the shows were doing so well, he's like, I want to start moving up the chain and getting shows that are a little bit more adult. This is when Amanda Bynes comes in. So Amanda Bynes comes in, and she's incredibly charismatic. She's funny as fuck. She basically is the new star of Nickelodeon. She hits it off right away with the cast, with Dan.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of stories. It's like, yeah, we never really saw her. She'd be gone with Dan all the time, just gone. We'd all have to like show up and do our readings, and she would get a pass. And, they were really friendly. And then all the parents are like, yeah, well, in hindsight, he was with her a lot.
Hmm.
And that what happened to her. She has some like schizophrenic
She had, like, a
problems.
break, yeah.
She ran out in LA naked, running around. And she finally said, oh my God, I need help, and called the police on herself. Like,
Yeah.
she's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
And when you watch all this stuff, now it puts into context why she's so broken.
Sure.
Yeah. There's a video out there. Somebody shared it where she posts something like, oh yeah, life's been great. I had an abortion that an old producer knocked me up and made me get this abortion. Well, who the fuck do you think it was? Now
Yeah.
all the pieces are coming together.
I do remember that when that got posted.
Ooh. And she's really been quiet. She hasn't come back as far as I know. She hasn't said, hey, you guys figured it all out. She seems to want to distance herself from it all.
She's doing something. She's still under like a conservatorship or something with her parents, and she's trying to get off of it. But they're like, no, this isn't like a Britney situation. Like, you should probably still be on a conservatorship.
Yeah.
She's still struggling with mental health.
She's got a tattoo of a heart under her eye.
Yeah, she went all Mike Tyson and got face tattoos and shit. Like, that's not typically the decisions of a healthy person.
No, not usually. At least at that age.
Right.
Well, I'm trying to think, was there anything else? That's about the long and short of it. But it's, there's more people that are in that group that have their own side stories. Like the guy who molested Drake Bell was friends with Bryan Singer of the X-Men and Usual
Yeah.
Suspects. And you can actually watch one of I think it was X-Men 2, where, remember somebody came out of the water and turned into the Senator?
I remember the senator turned into water because they hit him with a ray. That was X-Men. That was the first X-Men movie.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he walks up, and some guy is it's a beach. He walks up out of the water at some point for something. And there's a guy with a hot dog vending station, and that's Brian Peck. That's the pedophile.
Oh.
Like, they even gave him movie roles.
Okay.
Man, there's so much pedophilia in Hollywood. I just read about something today, watching that Deluxe show, where there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, but he made some movies like Jeepers Creepers. He made something way back in the day called Clown House, and he totally molested the 12-year-old star. and got arrested and still works in Hollywood. Still works today. He was actually supported by Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay.
Francis Ford Coppola was friends with him, gave him money to make this movie Clown House, where he met the kid that he molested. And the kid's been on YouTube since he was maybe 16, 17, 18. He's probably 25 now. I don't know. I got the age wrong. But he's sitting there making videos like, this guy raped me. This guy, like, he's screaming it out.
Right.
But nobody was
Nobody's
picking up
listening.
the story.
Shit.
So now I'm looking at Francis Ford Coppola, who then, because he didn't like this kid going out and getting his buddy arrested, he started making trouble for the buddy. He started for the kid. He started he put together a lawsuit against the kid.
Like for slander or what?
Oh, I wish I remembered. I
Okay.
really, I shouldn't bring up things I don't totally remember. You guys could look it up. But apparently, Francis Ford Coppola is another creep who seems to be okay with pedophilia. He backed somebody who he knew was doing this stuff because they got arrested and still supported him.
That's Nicolas Cage's uncle you're talking about there.
Yeah, well, he's crazy, so, it runs in the family.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
You'd mentioned something else at the top of this story about all the shit going down with P. Diddy, completely unrelated to any of this stuff as far as we know. But yeah, like the FBI raided his house a few weeks back and looking for evidence of things he's accused of grooming and shit like that too.
Oh, for sure. There's a guy on the internet right now who tells everybody, oh, yeah, P. Diddy hired me to kill Tupac.
Yeah.
And he's been sitting there screaming it, like, oh, yeah, I was the one who did it. I got it. Nobody did anything about it. Well, now that Diddy's getting in trouble, they're looking at this video. Here's what's up. There's just not enough law enforcement to run down every issue.
Sure.
That's just got to be what it is. I mean, the videos were out there, but it's like, we got so much shit we got to deal with. We just haven't gotten to the Diddy problem yet. It hasn't gotten big enough to where we have to get involved. And then when it got big enough, then they got involved and uncovered all the dirty shit that's going on in his parties.
And this also tied, I was just going to say, at these parties, this also tied over to the Hollywood world because Cuba Gooding Jr. is also
Right.
implicated in this stuff too.
Yeah. Crazy, crazy. I remember Usher was on Howard Stern, and Howard was like, well, didn't you kind of, and this is years ago before any of this came out.
Yeah.
He goes, you were under Diddy's wing for a while. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, my mom would drop me off at the house, which is supposedly some kind of, you called my basement a dungeon, sex
Yeah.
dungeon. Apparently, his place
Hey,
is
you
crazy.
know what? To be fair, I never said sex dungeon. I just said dungeon. You put the sex part in. That's on you.
All right. So evidently, Diddy has cameras in every room that record at all times because if he wants, he's got, we're jumping at, we'll do another show on it.
Okay.
But he's got this whole thing where he really likes to break a man down to the point where it's like, give me fellatio.
Yeah,
all
he's
the
fucking
time.
people all the time.
Yeah. And people are just like, all right, look, you're the man. I'll do it. Like,
He
I'll
blackmails the shit out of him.
And apparently the same thing happened to him.
Oh.
So he's kind of like, let me take this and do what was taught to me to other people.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Usher, but Justin Bieber also was under him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that there could be a lot of stories coming out.
Why is it taking so long since Weinstein, since Max Weinberg did everything he did?
Yeah, good question.
And isn't it just so insane? It's almost as insane as like the OJ murder.
Yeah, there's still a lot of shame and guilt and the way people respond to traumatic events, coming forward and sharing that kind of stuff, like you gotta be really fucking vulnerable and feel safe enough to do something like that.
Yeah. But I feel like we watch these guys on TV so much. Like I said, the OJ thing, when OJ committed that murder, it was like, this is the most shocking thing in the world.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I'm telling you, he did it.
He told you he did it. He wrote a fucking book about it.
Listen, I watched another rabbit hole go down, OJ, real fast. There's a thing that I just saw on YouTube the other day where they got the lead LA detective, not Furman, but the other guy, the old looking guy. And
been a
Kato
while.
Kalin was on the show, and it was the first time they had talked, right?
Since the trial?
Yeah. So they're kind of recounting what happened. And it was a pretty good interview with this LA guy. They kept on going, and the LA detective guy was like, oh, yeah, there was tons of information that we couldn't get into court. Like, we had the receipt of the knife that OJ bought, to kill the person. Like, we had all this stuff, but we just couldn't get
It
it
was
in
inadmissible evidence, I guess?
for some reason.
Wow. I mean, you ask why people didn't come out with this stuff or why it's taking so long to come out with this stuff. Look at that guy that you mentioned was on YouTube that was, a victim of the clown house. Like, he's been shouting it from the rooftops, just nobody picks up, nobody believes him. The world I really work in, there's a lot of traumatic events and traumatic things that people I work with go through. And many of them aren't willing to come out and talk about it because they're afraid people won't believe them.
That's exactly what they were saying here.
Yeah.
And I think the thought of, hey, I got to do this because this is what gets done in Hollywood. I'm not going to have a career without it. You know, they also get you all excited about being famous and then make you scared to lose all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, and this kind of lends some credence and kind of why I was asking if these YouTube videos existed before this documentary broke or have only come out since then. And you'd say that they were always there, but buried on YouTube. Yeah, you can bitch that this documentary only came out on ID or it was done poorly on ID, but it did bring light to something that people were ignoring. If I'm scrolling through YouTube, I'm not looking for rape videos or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for lighthearted, entertaining things, like not dark shit like this.
Yeah. That's why when I read that article that I read you, I was like, I don't understand their point of view. I wouldn't have given a shit if it came out on the Sci-Fi Network. I'd be so happy that the ball is now rolling
Yeah.
and the masses are seeing all this. But
It gave it a voice.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So now the videos, you just said the videos have always been there, but now they're really coming out.
Sure.
Now they're really coming out because there's a lot of people who didn't get their say on that Quiet on the Set who now are getting interviewed by people like us, not real broadcasters, but like podcasters are grabbing some of these people who we barely remember and getting their side of the story. So everybody on not everybody, Kenan Thompson's not talking about it,
Right.
but a lot of people are.
I can only imagine what the fucking algorithm charts look like for those channels. They just huge spike after this channel came or after this documentary came out.
Yeah. And the world is fucking crazy. I watched this whole thing and I was just like, not that I watch those shows, but I know who those performers are.
Yeah.
And one of the people they showed a lot of was, as being around at the time, not on the Nickelodeon show, but around Brian Peck, was Leonardo DiCaprio. Like he broke away from Nickelodeon and became a huge star going another way.
He was on Nickelodeon?
Yeah, no, but he was with Peck.
Like in those circles.
Yeah, he was in those circles. And I guess I don't really know that full story. I should go down that rabbit hole. But it's like, your mind wanders. Like, did somebody fuck with Leonardo? Not that it's our business, but you just go, ugh.
Yeah.
I kind of like Leonardo. Like, I hate to think that he's going through dark shit like this, but
Yeah.
they go through dark shit and they have to swallow it and keep it hidden.
Well, I've watched nothing like any of these shows here this past week. I started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender with my son, and on your recommendation, I started watching the Fallout series on Amazon Prime.
Both shows have molestation. It's crazy.
You know what I forgot? We were talking about Airbender. Wait, they do?
I'm kidding.
Wait, I was going to say, I didn't get to those seasons
You
yet.
can't gloss over that bad joke.
I was like, wait a minute. Maybe. I thought you meant there were like molesters involved with the making of it. I did forget Dave Filoni was a big director for Avatar: The Last Airbender, that original cartoon we were talking about.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's where he cut his teeth and became a Star Wars guy.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I wasn't, like I said before, I wasn't a big fan, but I knew it was a decent show.
I'll tell you, and you said, like, why did people, because we talked about The Last Airbender for people that weren't listening. Our final story of last week's show was you talking about Dave Bautista doing voice work for a new, I don't want to say reboot, but a new series of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And your questions were like, why did people care? Like, there was the original, and then there was the M. Night Shyamalan movie, and then there was the new series on Netflix, and now they're going to do another one. Like, why do they keep doing this? And it's like, I was like, I really don't know. But we started watching. I got to tell you, like, it is a good series. I mean, it's funny. It's a good message. I mean, it's a lot like an old kung fu movie would be.
To me, it's a little like how Spider-Man was becoming for a while. Every Spider-Man franchise, you had to learn how he was bit by a
The
spider.
origin story. Yeah, I know.
To the point, I mean, at one point we were watching the same movie over and over and over.
Yeah.
Same story,
It's
same
like,
issues.
now it's Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's Tobey Maguire. Oh, and not in those order, obviously, but
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. But no, I mean, Avatar, I think is good. I mean, it's a good story, good character building. I can see why people really liked it.
Yeah.
And I watched like all of season 1 with him, and then I checked in on him the other day, and he's like, "Oh, Aang has hair now. I'm on season 4." I'm like, "How much of this shit are you watching?" So I'm way out. If I want to catch up now, I'm on my own.
I never saw it with hair. So he's got that
I
little,
haven't either.
he's got that arrow on his head.
Yeah,
So the hair just covers the arrow.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I hope he shaves the arrow out. Like he's got a full head of hair and then just
No,
like
it's
the
like a
shaved out
tattoo, and he
arrow.
has like on his head. He has it on both of his arms and on both of his legs. So it's a lot like a Dalai Lama type situation where the avatar is like if the avatar dies, like if Aang would die, he would just be reincarnated in one of the other tribes. So there's airbenders, firebenders, earthbenders, and waterbenders. And he's currently an airbender, but so what had happened was the firebenders basically there was peace and the firebenders basically became like the Sith of Star Wars. They basically killed all the airbenders and they're like fighting to be like the one dominant element, I guess you could say. And so now he really is the last airbender. That's why it's called Avatar the Last Airbender. And it's funny, they keep like capturing Aang and it's like, why don't you just kill him? Well, if they kill him, he's just gonna come back as a different like reincarnated as a different element and they'd have to go out and try and find him in the world and capture him again. So it's like an ongoing story. But yeah, there's some good humor in there.
I like that you said the Dalai Lama.
Well, it is like the Dalai Lama because they say the Dalai Lama is like when they find like a young person that is like the reincarnation of the past Dalai Lama. That's how that works.
Well, I like that you brought up the Dalai Lama because as the segue master, I'm going to ask you, did you hear about the Dalai Lama sticking out his tongue and asking that little boy to suck his tongue?
Yeah, but that happened like 3 years ago. Like that's like old news, but
Yeah,
you're going to tie it together with the last story.
I'm going to tie it in.
I don't think that was a sexual thing.
No, I don't either. But it was, come on, dude, what are you doing?
I mean, he's a guy that was found as a child and determined because they do this thing, and I'm not. I'm going to try to be culturally sensitive, but this is really how it works. Like they'll bring children to Buddhist temples, and there will be like certain possessions of the previous Dalai Lama, and after that Dalai Lama dies, they'll have certain possessions, and they'll bring in these children. If they can identify like what these possessions are, it will be determined by the monks if this is the new reincarnation of the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama himself.
And then that person is now the Dalai Lama moving forward. So this guy, who's now the current Dalai Lama, I don't want to say this guy, that sounds disrespectful, but, you know, he's been the Dalai Lama, this exalted figure in the Buddhist religion since he was a child. I don't think he was being sexual when he asked some kid to suck his tongue. I thought, who the hell knows what he was thinking? I don't think he has people skills. I don't think he's around people that don't kiss his ass.
The story you just told me sounds so much like a fictional storyline of one of the shows we would watch, but
Right.
to those guys, it's real life.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is like I tried to tell Chase, my son, I was like, oh, this is a lot like how the Dalai Lama works. And he's like, what are you like, this is a show. And I'm like, no, I understand that, but this is very much taken from real life. And he's like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, to us, right. Western culture, we were like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, he's got the whole world to learn yet.
We can't even fucking vote for elections without fucking going nuts. They're over there picking people for a life that's going to lead their entire religion.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's an insane concept.
Yeah.
Not that, again, I'm not judging their belief system. I'm just saying it's a crazy thing for me to wrap my head around.
Crazier than the Diddy story and the Nickelodeon thing and Max Weinberg?
Max Weinberg, yes. The other shit's just powerful people being bad. There's nothing new there, man.
All right. Well, I can't think of anything else to talk about on the Nickelodeon thing except this last part. Dan Snyder, after the show aired, he grabbed, or one of the kids from the show who didn't get mentioned but seems to like Dan Snyder, seems to be a podcaster now. So he reached out to Dan Snyder and said, hey, do you want to respond to this? So it's kind of like the kid starts interviewing Dan Snyder, and Dan Snyder just takes over. It's like, don't ask me any questions. I already got a pre-planned,
I have my narrative. I'm going to get it across. Be damned with your questions. Yeah.
At one point, he starts crying, and I'm just like, dude, we know you're the bad guy.
It's all performative, you think?
It's so, yeah,
For sure.
There's no question in my mind.
Well, it sounds like the documentary, and I hadn't watched the documentary. This is certainly more your brand of entertainment than mine. It sounds as though that documentary on ID, which you saw on Max, was really trying to do the right thing by showing both sides. They gave him a voice on the documentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a good documentary should show point counterpoint and should show both sides. But you said it was kind of ham-handed where they would present things and then just leave it hanging, like draw your own conclusion.
Yeah, I misspoke. So the Dan Schneider part, that's a totally different thing.
Oh, I misunderstood that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. So that's a totally different thing. They showed Dan Schneider footage, but yeah, to your point.
So
what
they
you
never
said.
interviewed Dan Snyder on that Max documentary.
Right.
Oh, okay. So then they really didn't do. I mean, I think a documentary should have. We talked about this. The way documentaries used to be done, it was like present all information, unbiased, and then go from there. But of course, the world we live in now, everything has a fucking biased or a angle, and that's where it was going.
Mm-hmm. I studied documentary in school,
Yeah.
in college, and and that was the rule they taught us. Like, be in the middle, be Switzerland.
Yeah.
Which I guess Switzerland joined the UN, so they're not even Switzerland anymore. But
Not to get political.
not to get political. Yeah, no. Well, listen, let's move on because we
Yeah.
got a lot of other stuff to talk about.
I mean, how do you spin out of rape? I don't know where we go from here.
I don't know. I don't seem to have any problem just moving on. My brain is always firing too fast for me anyway.
So aside from Fallout and Avatar, The Last Airbender, I came across this story and I'm curious. Have you heard of the reported phenomenon of Pink Floyd's album Dark Side of the Moon syncing up with The Wizard of Oz?
I have. I've always heard it.
Have you ever tried it?
I never have.
I did. When I was in high school, I remember taking in The Wizard of Oz. I had Dark Side. It was the CD at that point. And I was in the band room. I remember this very vividly. I was in band, so we had our own room where everybody went instead of study hall or math class or anything else you wanted to get the fuck out of. I remember sitting there with like all the lights on. I'm like, okay, here we go. And when the lion roars the third time, you hit play. And then here we go. And you sit there and you wait. And the thing that brings this to mind for me right now and why I bring it up on this show, I found an article this week on Snopes. We talked about Snopes, like the fact-finding website. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, created to sync with Wizard of Oz, ? Verdict? False.
Yeah. I don't think I ever heard it was made to do it. I heard it just happened to do it.
No. And like I was almost, and I was a dumb high school kid. I feel like I was watching it like hearing that it lined up and wanting it to line up. Like there's one part where they say, dig that hole. It's time to dig another one. And like one of the farmhands talks about like it nods his head because he says dig a hole. But like it's just complete coincidence. Like it doesn't sync up at all. And then I was thinking like, because everybody else in the band room with me was like, oh, this doesn't line up. This is fucking stupid. I'm like, you know what, though? It's because I have the CD. If I had the album, if I had the LP, this would be lining up perfectly.
Yeah.
But no, it never did, according to Snopes here.
I loved all that stuff. Like if you play Judas Priest backwards, you hear shit.
Satan and shit.
Yeah. Or when that kid shot himself in the face.
Take the gun. Take the gun.
Take the gun.
Shoot,
Yeah, Ozzy
shoot,
Osbourne.
shoot.
Shoot. Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't say take the fucking gun and shoot. I didn't say that.
Bloody hell.
Hello, governor.
Oh. Let's bring her back.
Fancy a crimpet?
Oi, oi, oi. Let's do the whole show we did last week again.
Oh, man.
Well, that's good to know.
So if you never have tried it, if anybody else out there hasn't tried it, don't bother. It's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
Where's shit like that come from?
I don't know. When we were kids, there were so many stories, and they were all like X-rated stories that you would hear about me, like somebody having a gerbil, and it's like, where do these stories come from? I don't know, but how does everybody know them without an internet back in the day?
This is really, it has to be the result of urban myths.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised. Now everybody believes every conspiracy, but I was going to say, I'm just surprised everybody assumes it's true. It may not be true, guys. You don't have to assume this stuff is true. If it sounds too ridiculous, go, well, I heard it. It entertained me, but I don't know that it's true.
But when I was a kid, like, it was almost gospel.
Yeah.
But now I look at things like QAnon and I think you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. I don't know. I almost think that the whole Pink Floyd, and they call it Dark Side of the Rainbow. That's the mashup.
Mm.
I feel like it almost had to come out of just somebody being really high with the playing in the background and being like, "Oh shit, man, the TV's talking to me."
Yeah, yeah. There's something I just read about the Deadpool movie coming out, right? Because everybody's I love the trailer. Didn't give away everything for once in a Disney, Disney and Marvel movie. So one of the speculations is because Taylor Swift is friends with somebody, has pictures hanging out with that somebody. It's either it
Well,
might be Blake Lively.
Blake Lively was in the box with her at the Chiefs game, so they are friends.
There you go.
Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively were both in the owner's box with Taylor Swift at Arrowhead Stadium back during the last NFL season.
So there you go. Now the speculation is she's in the Deadpool movie.
Great.
So there was rumors way back in the day when they were making those other X-Men movies that they were going to get Taylor Swift before she was this big, and she was going to play Dazzler.
I remember that. Yeah, we talked about that, I think.
So now Taylor Swift, I guess, just put out a new album, and the very last lyric of one song is like, I can't remember the words exactly, but the very last word is, and it'll be.
You're a Swiftie. Don't act like you're not.
I'm not. I really am not.
Jenna is.
I don't know how this kid is so big. I don't mind her, but I'm just like, she's not that special to me, but people love her. Anyway, the last lyric is something like, look forward to the future, dazzling. So everybody's like, oh, she's giving us an Easter egg because apparently
She
does
does
that.
put so many Easter eggs in it. She's like, her album's like a fucking episode of Screen Crush.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane.
Well, maybe she just told everybody she's playing Dazzler.
Well, that's great. I hope she did. That's a good thing to have in there. But there's so many different things in that trailer. Have you watched any of the Easter egg videos for the trailer?
Yep.
I think it's funny that the bad guy's base is like a hollowed out Ant-Man, like a jumbo Ant-Man suit that has like a giant skull inside of it.
And arms. I mean, that's full on Giant Man laying there.
Yeah.
And they're living in his brain.
They're living in his skull.
So one of the breakdowns is all those characters that were like miniatures,
I watched it.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't tell who anybody was.
Azazel from X-Men First Class is in there.
Sabretooth.
Sabretooth. Yep.
Death Strikes.
Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah.
She's in there.
All
Yep.
the original actors, too. So they're bringing them back.
That was questioned whether or not it's going to be the original actor or not. Because Liev Schreiber, I don't know if Liev Schreiber is coming back to be Sabretooth.
Go to the first Sabretooth. They think it's Tyler Mane.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see. This is what happens with these movies. We start to speculate too much, and then we get disappointed when the things we want to see don't happen.
It's the same thing with Star Wars, because Star Wars will show like a scene that doesn't even make the final video to make you think one thing, and then it goes someplace else. But then it backfires because you think like, oh, that other thing would have been a lot cooler.
We are cranking through this podcast today. It's already like 50 minutes in. We better keep moving with the stories here.
All right, what else you got?
All right, we'll blaze through these. I literally have like 9 or 10 articles here, but we're not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to pick some random ones here. How about this one? The Office reboot reportedly casts its first stars. So we were talking that they're actually going to try this. So let me read it to you. The potential reboot of the popular sitcom The Office has reportedly cast its first 2 stars. Sabrina Impaccatori from The White Lotus Season 2 and Domhnall Gleeson, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, and Ex Machina.
Ex Machina?
I don't even see. Don't know how to say anything anymore. I don't talk out loud. I just read the internet all day. I don't ever speak.
Sounds good
to
in your
anybody.
head.
Yeah. Anyway, they're said to be the first actors to join the cast of The Office reboot. Character details about their roles are being kept under wraps for now, but they are expected to be part of a larger ensemble cast. No shit. The Office reboot is confirmed to be in development from Greg Daniels, who developed the original U.S. version. However, it will be a multiverse story with this...
Not a multiverse. Do not say multiverse.
No, I'm kidding. So it's going to be set in the same universe as the other Office, but it's going to give you a new set of characters. Potentially a documentary crew is also going to be walking around doing, what they did before.
Yeah.
Continuing that mockumentary format. While no network or streamer is attached yet, the project is considered a priority given the popularity of the original series. There are currently no details on whether any actors will reprise the roles. This sounds like a gamble. This sounds like one of those things where they say, we have this franchise, we have the license for this franchise. It's not doing anything right now. We got to boot it back up. And then somebody goes, dude, you don't want to tarnish the... shut up. Money. Money.
Yeah,
Shut up.
but money.
But money.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a gamble. The original UK version, Ricky Gervais set that whole thing up. It really launched Ricky Gervais's entire stand-up. I mean, he was a stand-up beforehand, but like it put him on the map.
Hmm.
And they brought it over, and then Steve Carell got cast as Ricky Gervais here in the United States version. And like all of those people that were in that show, for the most part, they blew up. They're all over Hollywood. I mean, fuck, what's his name? That played Jim. He's like,
He's a director now. He was
yeah, he's in Don't Say a Word, or The Quiet Place.
something. Yeah, yeah.
Quiet Place it was. But he was also in those Tom Clancy shows. He played Jack Ryan.
I couldn't watch that. There's just no way I'm going to buy the doofus from The Office as a
Yeah, it was a good show.
action
I mean,
hero.
it was good. But it to your point, like there's a greater gamble that you're going to piss away the integrity of the franchise. And again, we keep talking about adding or remaking or rebooting or adding on to things. It fucking better stay true to the original subject material. Otherwise, you're pissing it all away.
They can get it right, but it just sounds like a gamble I wouldn't take.
Yeah.
All right, other stories here is a few I'll go through fast. A Konami code variant in Castlevania N64 has been discovered. Remember the up, down, left, right?
This intrigues me.
How did somebody find it? So on the N64, it's not the up, down, left, right, BA, because the N64 controller works differently. But now, a couple kids, and they have names, Moses and Liquid Cat. Why would somebody name their kid Liquid Cat?
I think that might be an alias.
Oh, is that what they're doing now, the youngsters? How did they find it? Like, how do you just dick around on your computer, your controller, and then go, holy shit, did you see what just happened? What did I do? I did A, B, up, down, down. Like, how do they do this and find it?
Well, here's the thing. I'd be more willing to bet that kids being kids and really getting smart with computers and programming, they probably went through the code and just found something. They weren't just dicking around smacking on a controller. I think they probably found it hidden in the code of the game.
That makes sense. You're a smart cookie.
Sometimes.
Marvel Studios lost money on 2 recent MCU films. It's
No shit.
finally confirmed. Yeah, we do.
Let me guess. Was it The Marvels?
Yeah.
And also, what else came out?
Well, this is confusing.
Okay.
They say it's Quantumania. I'll read this real fast.
The Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the final numbers are in. A new Bloomberg report has confirmed that Marvel Studios lost money on 2 of its 2023 releases, the first time that's ever happened. The Marvels and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It goes on to say the Marvels is the single worst theatrical performance in MCU history. Not only did it earn a record low $206.1 million at the global box office, but its reported budget ballooned up to $274.8 million, making it the 4th most expensive film in the MCU history. But then it says, while the Marvel's theatrical run was the most catastrophic in studio history, Quantumania got 2023 off to a surprisingly bumpy start, earned $476 million on a reported $200 million budget. I'm not good at math, but it earned $476 million on a $200 million budget. That doesn't sound like a loser.
Right.
So what the fuck?
I don't know. It says bumpy start, not catastrophic start.
Well, the headline was 2 movies lost money.
Right.
Dickheads. All right, what's this story?
Hold on. You reading numbers there made me think. You know what I heard today that blew my mind of last year's movies? We did shows before about like biggest box office bombs of, 2023, 2022, whatever. We always joke about Transformers Bestiality.
Yeah.
Beast Wars.
Yeah.
Do you know Beast Wars made $480 million and actually earned more money than fucking Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Really?
Yeah. I heard that today. Now, I didn't fact check that, but that is something I heard from a very reputable source, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? No wonder they're coming out with all this new Transformers bullshit.
Yeah.
Also, it's the 40th anniversary of Transformers.
God, we're that old.
Yeah, that's what I got out of that story.
Yeah. I like this headline. I won't read it, but Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav gets a big pay bump despite being bad at his job. So that's interesting how that works. That's fucked up.
Meritocracy be damned.
Oh, my God. Here's one. Anne Hathaway says gross chemistry test in the 2000s required her to make out with 10 guys. I was like,
I want to hear more about this.
Yeah, so she says, yeah, in the old days, you go in, you audition, then they want to see how your chemistry is with your co-star. I've heard all this, and then,
This is not where I thought the story was going.
oh, we're,
I thought she was in like high school chemistry class and had to kiss 12 guys.
no.
Oh, this makes a lot more sense.
But just think about how weird that is. They're like, it's a bunch of dudes sitting there going, all right, we have 10 actors. We want to see you kiss them to see if you have chemistry so we know whether we want to hire them or not. And she goes, all right, I guess if that's what you want. And then you got to make out with 10 guys in front of a bunch of people. I mean, that's the most perverted thing I've ever heard.
That's not great.
She's like, we know better now, but yeah, that's the shit we had to do back in the day.
Wow.
I thought this was interesting from Variety. The Rust Armorer's jail calls show lack of remorse.
So they're listening to her calls from the jail?
They're listening to it, yeah.
All that shit's recorded. She should know that.
Well, listen to what she says here. So in recorded jail calls, Rust Armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed complained about the judge. Gutierrez, thank you. See, I'm just fucking awful at this. Never knew I was so bad at that. I only grew up with people whose last names are Smith. Yeah, Morgan, Johnson.
Allen.
Yeah, I never had any fucking Hannah Gutierrez Reed.
Weirdest thing you had was a Klein with EIN instead of INE.
My own name is hard enough for me to pronounce. All right, anyway, so she complained about the judge, prosecutor, and jurors who served on her case and said that she was railroaded. She was convicted last month of involuntary manslaughter for loading a live bullet into Alec Baldwin's gun, leading to the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. But prosecutor Carrie Morrissey asked that Reed be sentenced to the maximum of 18 months. Now, let's pause there.
Maximum sentence? I mean, I guess there was no malicious intent there that we know of.
18 months?
Yeah, that's a year and a half.
Jesus Christ. I mean, no wonder nobody's afraid to.
It's not enough to take a life.
Right.
You know?
People committing crimes all the time. He's like, what am I going to get, 18 months? And then they say that she denies responsibility as she's being recorded here and blames other people, including the set medic, paramedics, and even Alec Baldwin and the producers. The defense has asked for probation, submitting letters from Reed's friends indicating she does have remorse. However, the prosecutor stated that Reed said someday she really likes it in there. What the fuck is going on in jail? 18 months in a place that people really like it? This doesn't sound like a punishment.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like punishment to me. I mean, nothing she's saying is anything different than what Donald Trump's saying in New York. So, I mean, I guess she's just taking a page out of the ex-president's book.
He's today, I don't know if you're following the...
I'm not.
They're at the Supreme Court right now trying to argue whether he has immunity because he was a president.
They're back at this again? I thought they already said he doesn't.
Well, the lower court said he doesn't, and then finally they asked the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's like, all right, we'll hear it. It's just more stalling. It's a tactic.
Is.
But
yeah, of course it is.
It's moving fast now. He's got a lot of cases going on right now.
It sounds a little bit like a humana. Beats don't fail me now.
All right, flying through to more here. Jerry Seinfeld says the movie business is over and disorientation has replaced it. This is from Deadline. So we were talking about this before we started the show. I guess he's coming out with a movie about Pop-Tarts or something.
Pop-Tarts, yeah, the invention of Pop-Tarts.
Oh, I can't wait to learn about Pop-Tarts, Jerry. So Jerry, in an interview with GQ, shared his thoughts on the current state of the movie industry as he makes his featured directorial debut with Netflix's Unfrosted. That's the name.
Unfrosted, right? That's right. Yeah.
He believes.
Which, by the way, the best Pop-Tarts are always the frosted kind.
I haven't had a Pop-Tart in forever.
I had one yesterday.
Really?
S'mores.
Oh, really?
It's my go-to.
Sounds pretty fucking good. He believes that the movie business has lost its cultural prominence, with audiences no longer universally discussing and quoting films as they once did. Seinfeld suggests that disorientation has replaced the movie business, with everyone in the industry questioning how to navigate this changing landscape. They're so dead serious. Oh, I got to do it in Jerry's voice. They're so dead serious. They don't have any idea the movie business is over. They have no idea.
Who are these people?
He continued, film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the social, cultural hierarchy that it did for most of our lives. When a movie came out, and if it was good, we all went to see it. We all discussed it. We quoted lines and scenes we liked. Now we're walking through a fire hose of water just trying to see.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting, because he's not wrong.
No.
Hollywood is really going through maybe its final change here.
movies have no staying power. Regardless of how well they're received and how acclaimed they are, there's no staying power with it's not really like an art form anymore. It's here and gone.
Yeah.
We live in a binge watch society.
The Fallout show we were talking about, we were surprised that they dropped that
Yeah.
all at once. And damn, that show hit hard, and everywhere there was articles. I'm already seeing the articles dry up.
Yeah. I'm 4 episodes in. I do enjoy it. It's fun. But a lot bloodier than I was expecting it to be.
Did you get to the molestation yet?
No, I didn't.
There isn't one
Oh, okay.
that I remember.
No.
I'm so numb to it, apparently, because, it's my
Well,
favorite
this is-
topic,
this is how
evidently.
you fill your free time.
Ugh. All right, one more story, then we'll wrap it up. Unless you have one that you want to.
No, I mean, I kind of talked about mine along the way here. They just kind of filled right in. We talked about Deadpool already. The only thing I had here was that people are upset that Sinead O'Connor didn't get any nominations for the 2024 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I think my question to you is, does Sinead O'Connor belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No, she's a one-hit wonder.
I mean, Nothing Compares to You is a fantastic song. Like, no question.
Prince wrote that.
I know. She sang the hell out of it, though.
There's a version of Prince singing it that I love,
I heard
too.
that. Yeah. But Prince belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sinead O'Connor, I don't think does.
It's because she just died.
It is. There's a lot of that, I don't want to say grieving, but there's a lot of that, posthumous, we need to feel this obligation to put her in there. But there's more deserving people. I don't know what the class is, but there are more deserving people that belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, dead or alive. I mean, let's base it on merit and what they did for the industry.
Is Weird Al in there?
No.
Like he should be. Before Sinead O'Connor.
And he'll be a guy that won't be until he dies,
Right.
which is sad.
Yeah. We won't get to see him do a final song of like a surgeon. We won't get to see him on stage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doing I Lost on Jeopardy. Like, I want to see that one more time. I want to
Better
see him
yet,
inducted.
when somebody gets inducted, other people perform that artist's songs in a tribute. I want to see like Foo Fighters up there singing I'm fat.
I thought they did their own songs. I never watched.
No, usually it's somebody else doing the tribute too. I want to see like Elton John up there singing what's the one about the bus?
Another one rides
Another
the
one
bus.
rides the bus.
You haven't lived until you heard John Mayer's Yoda. All right. Here's my last story. The Blair Witch Project cast asks Lionsgate for retroactive residuals and meaningful consultation on future projects. All right. So Lionsgate and Blumhouse. I've already told you I can't stand Blumhouse. All
I
they do
can't
is
stand Lionsgate.
really.
If I see the Lionsgate logo, I'm like, well, that's a shit movie. Probably a horror movie. Probably a very poorly done horror movie.
Yeah, these two sound like the LJN at Acclaim of the movie business.
Exactly.
Just stop taking old shit and redoing it, Blumhouse. Lionsgate and Blumhouse announced they plan to revive the franchise with a new movie that would provide, in the words of Lionsgate Motion Picture Group chair Adam Fogelson, a new vision for Blair Witch that will reintroduce this horror classic to a new generation. I think they say that about every reboot. Exactly the same words. Lionsgate did not produce or distribute the original 1999 film. It acquired the property through its 2003 buyout of independent film distributor Artisan Entertainment. Artisan.
Artesian.
Artisan, another word I never said out loud.
Artisan. That is artisan.
Yeah. All right. The Lionsgate Blumhouse announcement sparked a strongly worded response. Oh, I hate those strongly. Via social media from Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael C. Williams. They were the original creators of the movie and the actors, and they used their own names in there for some reason, who said that no one had contacted them about the project in advance. At this point, they say, it's 25 years of disrespect from the folks who pocketed the lion's share, pun intended, of the profits from our work, capitalized our. And that feels both icky and classless, Leonard wrote. Leonard said that the actors who shot and improvised the independent movie over roughly a week of a shoestring budget each made $300,000 from a buyout of their ownership points on the film, which went on to gross $248 million worldwide. In 2002, the actors sued Artisan Entertainment for using their names and likeness in the studio's 2000 sequel, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. All right. Now, I've done a lot of work for a lot of companies. I go in, I do marketing. I go in, I help them do some things, and then I leave. And the things that I do continue to help the company grow.
Sure.
I'm not going to go back to them and go, I got paid what the contract said I was supposed to get paid, but you're making a ton of money. I want some of it. I would feel so filthy doing that. I signed a bad deal. Most rock bands get in, they sign a bad deal, they eat the fucking crow, and then they get the next album out. They start to do a little better and a little better. And that's just the way the system works.
That's how most athletes operate, too. You get in on a rookie contract, play your ass off. When you're up for free agency, that's when you fucking get a payday. You make a good deal.
Yeah. Well, they're pissed off that they're not getting a cut of this. They sold it.
So let's talk about the history of Blair Witch. Blair Witch was, for all intent and purposes, it was the originator of the found footage horror movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing before that.
I mean, Night of the Living Dead was pretty gritty. That looked real, but it was never meant to be the found footage.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think anything else was like that.
Like, I never left a movie theater feeling like I was going to be motion sick because of somebody running through the woods holding a handy cam.
Oh, I saw.
I got so nauseous from that.
You didn't see the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre where they were chasing that girl around for 20 minutes with that 16mm camera?
I did, yeah. That's true. But I didn't see that in the theater. You know what I mean? So it really was this groundbreaking thing. It was this phenom that made so much money without costing so much money to make. Like they said, it was a very shoestring budget. Sounds like it was 3 people that really didn't know what the fuck they were doing, amateurs to it, and they sold out for $300,000 a piece, which you said, bad deal. The studio still owns it. You sold it to them.
You sold it to them.
They know what the fuck they're doing. Sounds like sour grapes.
It totally does to me. And they're like, we're the inventors of it. It wasn't that brilliant of an idea, kids. You know what I mean? Like, anybody could have come up with this, and now somebody took your property and they're kind of making new stories. What do you want?
I mean, somebody invented the pet rock too, but I can guarantee you that the company that actually sold it and marketed it made more of the money than the inventor.
Yeah. I don't know. Sour grapes is the right way. That's how I read it too.
Yeah.
And I was like, now you're going to go in social media, try to get all these people to kind of rally with you and go shame the company. He was like, motherfuckers, we followed the contract to the letter. Don't shame us.
I'm a big believer in we can't help what happened, but we can help what happens next. If you're that creative, innovate. Come up with the next thing. Make a better deal next time.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah. That's how I live.
Well, not today. Not in these times of ours.
I feel like you're going to stomp your feet, but I don't know. I hate the word entitlement because it gets thrown around a lot, but this sounds like a article written of entitlement.
Yeah, there's a big thing that I hear people kind of saying about the world today. We're putting feelings in front of fairness, and they don't think this is fair. But what I really think is their feelings are just hurt, that they weren't included. They weren't thought of as consultants because, frankly, the story wasn't that incredible that they had to go back to them, these geniuses who came up with it.
In hindsight's 2020. You can look back and be like, oh, you know what? They made a lot more money than I did. But yeah, you didn't know what it was going to become when you sold out.
Right. Yeah. Fairness to me is here's the contract. Here's every single thing in it. You signed it because you read it completely and understood it and agreed with it.
And I bet you at the time you were pretty goddamn happy for $300,000.
Yeah. I mean, that's
a piece.
Amazing.
I mean, it's for people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, I would take $300,000 right now because I know what the fuck I'm doing. Then somebody would take that idea and go ahead and sell it for $12 million probably. And I'd be like, oh, well, I guess I got the shitty end of that stick. But for all intent and purposes, I'm still happy with $300,000.
I helped produce a movie. I didn't make any money.
It cost you money.
Actually, I lost money on that. I'd be thrilled with $300,000.
So, yeah. Best I can say is sour grapes.
Sour grapes. Well, that's where we need to end, Scott, because you were talking about food, and as usual, it's coming up to dinner time, and my stomach just started growling when I heard those grapes.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks everybody for listening. As always, tell a friend. Let's keep growing this show, and we'll see you next week.
Money, 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 money.